to our YouTube channel, where wisdom meets inspiration. In this channel, we share valuable insights to help you become the best version of yourself.
So I will begin with the customary prayer, which is well known to everybody. This is a universal prayer which the teacher and the disciple in those days, they used to, what we call now one-on-one, sit together and pray to the Supreme Being if you believe in one. If you do not believe in one, even that is good enough. You know, Sri Ramakrishna, the guru of Swami Vivekananda, was confronted by a non-believer. He said, I don't believe in God, so why should I pray? How can I pray? Then Sri Ramakrishna gave him a very simple formula. Oh God, if you exist, please listen to this prayer. So you have any objection to praying like this? Then he said no. Then he started praying. Then he was a transformed person. So whether we believe in God, and God whatever form, you have to believe in laws of nature. And you have to believe the sun will rise exactly at the moment at which it is supposed to rise. You have to believe the earth will rotate in exactly the same manner in which nature has asked it to rotate. So the belief and faith in laws of nature is what we call science. And belief in that power which runs nature is what we call religion. If nature is self-contained and no other power is required apart from nature to move it, even that would mean there is something intrinsic to nature which makes it function exactly in the way it is functioning. So with this context, let us begin this small prayer. The teacher and the disciple together recite this prayer, invoking the blessings of the Supreme Being for their learning, teaching be effective and illuminative. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Supreme Being protect us both by revealing to us the true nature of knowledge. May the Supreme Being protect us both by revealing to us the application of that knowledge for the good of mankind. May we both strive together for the acquisition of knowledge and wisdom. May the knowledge and wisdom that we acquire be effective and illuminative. May there be no disharmony between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. So I am singularly delighted to be here and to meet some of the best minds that India has produced and will produce in future, and to interact with them and to share my thoughts on science and religion, or science and Vedanta. As has been described, science studies the external world, the world in which we live. What we see in the world consists of only two things. This was the statement of Shankaracharya, who was one of the greatest minds which India has produced, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, who propounded what is known as the Advaita philosophy. That the world consists of is only you and me. Is there anything else in the world? Yushmadasmat pratyayoho vishay vishayanoho tamaprakashavad viruddha svabhavadva. That is the beginning of what he called the Bhashya, the commentary and the Brahma Sutras. He says Yushmat means you, Asmat means I. I think some of you must have been exposed to Sanskrit grammar, the preliminary grammar in your school days. Yushmat Shabda and Asmat Shabda. Asmat begins with Aham Avam Vayam, and Yushmat is Tvam Yuvam Yuyam. Tvam is you, Aham is I. All that the world consists of is the other and me, the self and the other. I, as a human being, I look at this world, and the world as an object is being looked at, understood, investigated, smelt, tasted, heard by me. So, if you understand this word, the simplest of concepts of our existence and life, then everything falls in place. You may ask, what is the need of asking such questions? Why should you need to know about life and existence? We are absolutely happy. But you can't be happy unless you really understand certain fundamental things about yourself. This question just can't be postponed, evaded, wished away by a thinking, rational human being. The animals, the cats and the dogs and the birds and the worms do not ask these fundamental questions about how they live, where they came from, what is the destiny of human existence. They don't ask such questions. We are absolutely satisfied to be carried away by instincts which nature has endowed them with. But human beings ask certain fundamental questions about why we are what we are. So, the Upanishadic rishis, what called the Vedanta, did not invent a philosophy. It was not a theology, it was not a philosophy, it was not metaphysics. It was a simple questioning of certain fundamental facts about our existence. You question certain very fundamental things, you interrogate, you ask very simple questions, perhaps simplistic enough to be called stupid. But the answers which come out of these questions are so profound. Albert Einstein was asked once, see, how did you come upon this extraordinary theory of the relativity? You know, he had the general theory and the special theory of relativity. One of the greatest constructs of the human mind about space, time and causation and gravitation. It's unmatched in its brilliance and beauty, apart from the mathematical and the scientific rigor. Einstein very simply answered, you see, when we were young, as children we ask very simple questions and nagging stupid questions of our parents, very uncomfortable questions. And our parents say, stop asking such questions, you will know when you grow old. When you grow old, because of the so-called education and knowledge that they acquire, you become too clever to ask such questions. You wish them away as meaningless, but Einstein said, I did not forget those stupid questions which I had in mind when I was a boy or a kid, and kept on asking them. The answer which I got was the theory of relativity, about space, about time. So, these are fundamental things about existence which we know, but we do not investigate. What is time? You do not have an answer, but you know what is time. So, there is something which you know, but you can't analyze that answer. So, the Upanishadic rishis ask very simple questions, like, for example, when I open my eyes, how is it that I see? How is it that the ears are able to hear? How is it that my mind is able to think? Keneshitam patati preshitam manah kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshusrotram kavudevo yunakti. Very simple questions. How is it that I am able to see? How is it that I am able to hear? How is it that my mind is able to think? And then from there on, they investigated and came up with an extraordinary power within a human being, which is able to, through which you are able to see, you are able to hear, you are able to intuit. So, the faculties which a human being possesses in investigating and knowing the external world are to be known and investigated, but it is you. Why should we analyze and study Vedanta, religion or philosophy? It's simply because that is a subject which is most interesting. What would you normally like to do? You would dwell and contemplate on something which you love. Suppose you have a beautiful object which you love madly, you would constantly be thinking about it, talking about it, knowing more about it, the object of your adoration, the object of your love, the object which draws your heart will always be the object which you would like to know more and more about. What is the most beloved object in life? You tell me. This question was asked in the Upanishads. What is it that you like most in life? A survey was made by the American Psychologists Association. The survey was, what is the most frequently used English word? The answer, as you will easily guess, is the I. How many thousands of times everybody uses this I? I did this, I do this, I did it yesterday, the I. The most frequently used word, because it is the most frequently intuited, most familiar object in your life. I want to go to the Himalayas now and meditate. I want to go to the Kumbh Mela and have a dip in the Ganges and the Triveni Sangam. Are you taking somebody with you? No, I am going alone. But are you going with you? This question has no meaning, because you have to go with yourself. I can't run away from myself because I am I. So the most beloved object in the universe is me. Everybody loves himself or herself the most. Therefore, Yajnavalkya talks about it in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad when he says, it is not because of the husband that the husband is loved by the wife, but because of the self which is in the wife. It is not because of the wife that the husband loves the wife, because of the self. Nava are patyuk kamaya patipriyo bhavatyat manastu kamaya patipriyo bhavati. Nava are jayaya kamaya jaya priya bhavatyat manastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Nava are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Atma va are drashtavya shrodhavyo mantavyo nididhyasitavya. So it's because of the self which everybody is dear to you. Because you love yourself and therefore you love everybody in and through yourself. And therefore the self has to be investigated, to be known. The least known and the most beloved is the I. You know it, but you do not know what it is. You naturally cling to it, you know what it is, because it is you. There are certain objects which are known but not investigated, because the I cannot be investigated as an object. How do you know that you have a pair of eyes? Can you prove it? I know I have eyes. How do you know? What you say in the mirror is not the reflection. You have a pair of eyes because it is you are the I. It is me, and therefore you know it. So there are two kinds of knowing according to science as well as Vedanta. One is knowing as an object, the other is knowing because you are it. Knowing by becoming and knowing as an object. So the Yushmat and the Asmat, Yushmat is the object, Asmat is the subject. The interaction between the subject and the object is what is called knowledge. So Vedanta asks, what is knowledge? How do you know? For knowledge, three things are necessary. One is the known, which is the Yushmat or the object, which is what science studies. Science wants to know. Physics wants to know about the world of matter. It wants to know about the atom, the molecules, and the subatomic particles. On the one hand, the microcosm, and the macrocosm on the sun and the moon and the stars and the galaxies and the celestial bodies, the macrocosm on the other hand. I want to know the nature of this object. All that you study in material science, objective science, is matter. Physics wants to study that. The science of biology, life sciences, they study the origin of life, how life operates. about the plant life, about the animal life. So everything is the other which you are studying, the known or the object. So who is it that is studying? That is I, which is the subject. So they call it, in Vedanta they call it Vishaya, the object, and the Vishayi, who is the subject. And what is the relation between the Vishaya and the Vishayi? Between the known and the knower? Technically they are called the Gyeya and the Gyata. Gyeya is the object which is known, Gyata is the subject which knows. The known and the knower. What is the relation? The relation is through knowledge. So you have three things necessary for any knowledge to occur. The one is the known, which is being investigated, known, and the knower who investigates and tries to know, and there is a knowledge which is between them. Gyata, the knower, the subject, Gyeya, the known, the object, and Jnanam, which is connecting with these two. Vedanta calls us Triputi, it's a triad of quantities, and this applies to all the phenomena. You hear something, there is a thing which is being heard, there is a person who hears, and there is a hearing which is in between. Shruta, Shrota, and Shravana. You see something, an object which is seen, a person who sees, and the act of seeing which is in between. Drik, Drishya, object, Drashta, who is the seer, and Darshana, which is the act of seeing. So everywhere in all the spheres of knowledge, this is a fundamental thing which is accepted both by science as well as Vedanta. What science says is, I am not worried about the seer or the subject. My jurisdiction is the object. You see, every field of science need not be worried about everything. Suppose you go to a physicist and tell him, see, I have a terrible pain in my throat, so what do I do? Then you see, you should go to a medical doctor. You are a man of science, can't you solve this problem? I am a man of physical science, I am a man of material science. If you come with a piece of matter, I can tell you. You go to a computer scientist and then ask him something about the genetic engineering, he will not know, he is not supposed to know. What he will do is, my field is this, my jurisdiction is this, you ask put questions in my jurisdiction. See, every science, for example, has its own jurisdiction. A book on biology is not the authority for any happening in physics. A book on physics is not the authority for any fact which is belonging to life science. In exactly the same way, scientific books, documents are not authority when it comes to the subjective world, as much as religion is not the authority when it comes to the objective world. If you say, the Vedas say that the sun does not behave in this way, then say respectfully you should say Vedas are not the authority in this field. Because the jurisdiction of the Vedas, the sacred books, the holy books of all religions, is about the subjective world. Shankaracharya therefore very powerfully makes a very rational statement. Even if 1000 Vedas come and tell you, passages come and tell you that ice is hot and fire is cold, these have to be respectfully rejected. Because they are not the authority, they have no jurisdiction to comment on this. You have a jurisdiction, somebody is an expert in some field, somebody is an expert in economics, and he makes very confident statements about something in philosophy and something in religion. He is not supposed to do that. He is not an expert in this, but everybody is an expert in religion because it matters the I. Every person who has the feeling of I is supposed to be a person who is involved in the subjective world. You can't say, you can't be an expert in the outside world, in all the spheres of the universe, but you can be an expert as far as the I is concerned because you are the most interested and connected with that. Therefore, religion says, investigate into the most important entity through which you are able to investigate into the external world. Are you not interested in that? No, I do not care for that, but it is you. You do not care for yourself? Oh, I care for myself. I want my teeth to be perfect, my face should be beautiful. Oh, so much of money is being spent in beautifying your body, and then your education, the best of education you want to get, enriching your mind. I want to excel in everything, so I care for myself. So the care of oneself is one thing which is naturally comes to everybody. You can't say I do not care for myself. The little self, if you do not care, he will become a Vivekananda. He cared for everybody's selves, because he knew that himself was everybody. That comes as a very advanced stage of thinking. But just at the beginning, I should know about myself. What is it that is all about? Why is it that I am able to see? So the investigation into the nature of one's own self is the beginning of Vedanta. It is very simple. Everybody knows oneself, but he or she does not know the true nature of oneself, that is all. What is my true nature I do not know, but I know myself. I know myself not as an object, because I can't study myself as an object. If I try to objectify myself, then I will cease to be myself, because I am a subject. If the subject is objectified, then the subject ceases to be a subject, and therefore by definition a subject is an entity which is non-objectifiable. So the non-objectifiability of the subject is lost, the subject ceases to be a subject, and therefore you cease to be you. And therefore remaining as the eternal subject and constantly interested in the external world is the investigation of science. Remaining as the eternal subject and constantly being interested in your own self and trying to know yourself by yourself, not as an analytical study of yourself as an object, but just going deep into yourself and becoming what you really are in reality. All this appear to be rather too philosophical and too complicated. I will give a very simple parable of Sri Ramakrishna. There is a beautiful book, I recommend that to all of you. In English it is translated as the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The original is in Bengali, which is Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita. It is the most remarkable book. It is the outpourings of a person. Ramakrishna was Vivekananda's guru, as you know, who was absolutely unlettered, but he spoke from the depths of his realizations. He said, you know what it is like? There is a doll made of salt, just like dolls are made of so many objects. Suppose the man is a salt doll. The salt doll wanted to measure the depth of the ocean. So he took a meter stick, went to the ocean, tried to measure the depth of the ocean. What will happen to it, you know, naturally? So did the salt doll know the ocean? You can't say no, because salt doll is in the ocean. You can't say yes, because there is no salt doll to know the ocean. So what is the paradox? The paradox is the salt doll did not know the ocean as an object, but knew it by becoming the ocean. So this realization of one's own self, which is the subject of Vedanta religion, is a realization which comes to you when you actually become it, and therefore in a sense know it too intimately to be analyzed. Analytical knowledge is what we normally call knowledge of the external objects. What do we do in science? You analyze, investigate, you propound theorems, make experiments, tally the results of the experiments with what you have propounded. If it does not tally, modify, bring new theories. All that you do in science is only to construct models and theories, nothing else. You have not known anything, the truth. What you know called the truth simply eludes even science. You do not know what is the final word. nature very trickily uses two sets of laws for the microcosm and the macrocosm. You know the quantum laws for the very, very small distances? Why did nature choose 10 power minus 33 centimeters? Nobody knows. What is so great about this number? Beyond that, there is some other quantum laws which operate, which happen to be extremely at variance with the general laws which you use in the macrocosm. For the macrocosm, there is a totally different set of laws. For the microcosm, you have a different set of laws in the quantum laws. Now, human beings ask now very recently, last couple of decades, how is it that the nature is behaving so quixotically? The fundamental faiths of a scientist, as a Vedantist or religionist, is nature is beautiful, nature is aesthetic, nature is truthful. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, Shantam, these are the words which you have used. It is Satya, it is truth. Shivam, it is auspicious. It is Sundaram, it is beauty. From the sense of beauty, so many scientific discoveries have come up. Those of you who have gone into the history of science and the philosophy of science will know some of the greatest scientists were worshippers of beauty and truth. There is a beautiful book by Professor Chandrasekharan, the famous astrophysicist, Nobel laureate astrophysicist. Truth, values and beauty. Nature is beautiful is a firmly embedded belief and faith in a scientist. Nature has to be beautiful. And beauty means symmetry. Symmetry is a very fundamental concept in science. You build a building, you always look for symmetry. Symmetry is left-right symmetry and past-future symmetry. Suppose I have one hand like this, another hand like this and keep walking. You will say, oh, so ugly. Why? If both hands are the equal lengths, you will not feel ugly. Because you need to have a symmetry. You know the parity and parity violation, etc. in particle physics. There is a big discussion about whether parity can be violated at all. When the parity violation was discovered by Li and Yang, it's a big sensation in physics. How is it that nature can violate parity? Nature can violate parity, but nature can't violate what they call the CPT, the charge conjugation, the parity and the time reversal. If all the positive particles in the universe become negative and vice versa, if all the left becomes right and vice versa, and if time flows backward, then you will have exactly the same universe as you have now. This is called the CPT theorem. So people are worried about so many aspects of nature based on beauty. Nature has to be beautiful, based on symmetry. How did Faraday discover the electromagnetism? When Faraday discovered the electromagnetic theory and then demonstrated in the Royal Society of London, it seemed that then Prime Minister asked him, that's okay, Mr. Faraday, but what is the practical utility of your discovery? He is asking about electricity. Faraday is supposed to have smiled and said, sir, it is just like asking what is the utility of a newborn baby. It is absolutely useless, but allow it to grow. You see, none of us are actually materialists. We talk about materialism, consumerism, we run after money, etc. None of us is a pure hardcore materialist. One simple proof is, you feel so delighted when you get a child. You distribute sweets. What is it about? I got a boy. You should be weeping. For the next 25 years, it is going to make you spend about 50 lakhs of rupees. Simply sit on your head, keep on asking for money, like most of you perhaps do. One phone call, money comes. Absolutely carefree, somebody takes care. Why are you so delighted about a liability? A child is the greatest liability that the parents can have, but you don't look at it in that eye. When a child is born, you don't say, oh, it's a liability. You say, it's my treasure, it's my love, it's the greatest object of my affection. Certain values in the human mind which is beyond mere consumerism and money. If you are an absolute consumerist, when a child is born, you will simply hate it because you have to spend so much of money. So all the consumerists in the world, they rejoice when they get children. So this is a simple proof that nobody is actually a materialist. Another proof is very simple, with the practical examples. Suppose you say you are a very great person. Why? I have so much of money in the bank balance, I have so many cars, I have so many houses, I have so much of property, he is the richest man, he is the most, he is a billionaire, and therefore she feels he is very great. That is, the spirit in the human body believes that it is becoming great because it is getting so much of external wealth, matter. By contrast, there was a broken pen which was auctioned in England for several £1,000 because that was used by Shakespeare when he wrote the Hamlet. Nowadays, bats and balls are being auctioned. This ball, the last wicket in the World Cup last time when Kapil Dev won it, this was the ball which was used. In the auction, people will buy it paying several $1 million. Why? The worth of that ball, material worth of this ball should be 500 rupees. Why should you pay 5 crore for purchasing this ball? Because a spirit has touched it. A broken stick used by Swami Vivekananda when he was in the wandering days, you know his picture. It is still preserved at Belur Math, we worship it and put flowers. What is the material worth of the stick? Material worth of the stick is not even 5 rupees. So the worth of that piece of matter becomes infinitely enhanced by the touch of the spirit. We do it every day. Is it logical? I asked my so-called logically scientific friends, is it logical to worship this small piece of matter? You take the national flag, for example, a small piece of matter, either a cloth or a piece of paper, and then put it on the ground and trample upon it, you will be arrested. Is it materialism or is it spirituality? If you are a pure material matter, no, it is not a piece of matter. It is not a piece of paper. It represents something much bigger than what it is actually. The whole country is represented by it, so many emotions, thousands of years of tradition. It is India, and therefore you can't dishonor it. This is constitution, this is not philosophy or the Vedas or the Quran or the Bible. The Constitution of India says this. Is the Constitution of India religious, spiritual or scientific? Scientifically you should say this piece of matter does not deserve anything more than to be treated like a piece of matter. No. The famous story in Swami Vivekananda's life, he was the Alwar, the Rajasthan. The king of Alwar did not believe in image worship. He said, what is the point in worshipping a clay image, worshipping a stone, worshipping a piece of paper, worshipping a picture? Swami Vivekananda did not answer him directly. He saw on the wall a picture was hung. It is the picture of the Raja. He told the minister, bring down the picture. The picture was brought down. In the presence of the entire court, he told the minister, spit on it. So, no, how can you spit? Spit on it, I tell you. This is only a piece of paper. Why do you give so much respect to it? Then he was shivering. Then he told the king, you king, did you see? In one sense, it is just a piece of paper without any value. In another sense, it is you present there. Are you present there in flesh and blood? No. You are not present there in flesh and blood, but the moment one looks at the picture, it evokes images of you, old memories of you with affection and reverence and love and respect. And this is exactly what a person of religion does. A person of religion, when he worships all this, he does not think of it as a piece of stone, it evokes in him something which is beyond what he actually sees. That happens even in science. Why do we worship these great scientists? Because you know, you can't give the same respect to Michael Faraday, to Einstein, to a person who has just begun his Ph.D. work in physics. If you say, no, what is there in him? He is also an ordinary person. No, he is not ordinary. There is some special manifestation in that person by way of intelligence, by way of something else. So these are certain truths which we live by. There is a beautiful book by Arthur Eddington. You know, Eddington was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, and he was a great astrophysicist. Very proud of his knowledge also. There is a beautiful joke about him. Somebody told him, Arthur, you are one of the 3 people who have understood the relativity. It is so complex. And he thought for a while, he was not answering. Don't try to be modest, Arthur. I tell you exactly what I am saying is true. He said, I am not trying to be modest. I am trying to find out who the third person could be. Einstein knows and I know. Who is the third person who knows? That was Eddington. He has a beautiful book, an old book written in the 30s, The Nature of the Physical World. Those who have not read it, please do read it. We read it in the school days and continue to read even now. It is a most remarkably written book. It is a collection of his Hibbard lectures. And you know, the English people have such ready wit and extraordinary way of expression. The last chapter is titled Science and Mysticism. He makes out a case for mysticism, spirituality, and religion. There's a small section, symbolic and intimate knowledge. He says there are 2 kinds of knowledge. One is a symbolic knowledge of the outside world I was talking about. The other is intimate knowledge, knowledge by becoming. Symbolic knowledge arises through analysis, through investigation, and the intimate knowledge arises through a spontaneous understanding of the truth without analysis. There is a faculty beyond analysis by which you intuit that thing most naturally and spontaneously. You see the beautiful sunset or the sunrise. People spend so much money to go and see the sunset or the sunrise in Kanyakumari. People said, why did you go? I spent so much money. Oh, the sunset. Then I smile and say, if you open the window in your own room, you can see that. But we have no time to open windows in our own rooms. We have to go far away to see sunset and sunrise. You see a beautiful sunrise, the red crimson. Why should you feel happy and glad about it? What is to be glad about? Certain colors. A physicist would say, the red is wonderful, 6,000 angstrom units. You have such a wonderful yellow color, 5893 angstrom units. What you call color is only wavelength. If you analyze a color and then reduce it to wavelengths, you may know the nature of the color through science, but you miss the beauty of that color. If you miss the beauty, miss the joy, and then don't feel elated when you see these things, and then only use your analytical faculty in knowing everything, you will be a dead piece of matter. You see a fine music and you enjoy. Oh, what a beautiful piece of music. They're only wavelengths. If everything is analyzed and understood through science, our life will become absolutely dull and you will become a kind of robot. There he says, how do we understand things through analysis? You have a chemical salt. You go to the chemistry laboratory, and then all of you must have done this inorganic chemistry analysis, one of the most boring things in the world. Some sodium nitrate, all kinds of things will come, and then you have to find out, one confirmatory test will be there. And usually when you put something, everything is confirming, nothing, you don't know what it is. The easiest way is, go to the person who supplied it, I'll give you 10 rupees, please tell me what it contains. You know the famous joke, are there any chemical engineers here? There is a beautiful essay in one of the chemical engineering magazines that came out long back. How questions are so badly framed in examinations, that is the subject. So one question was asked, how do you find the height of a building using a barometer? You know the answer is because of pressure. So a boy was simply sitting there not writing anything. The teacher was going around, hey, why are you not writing anything? Don't you know the answer? Sir, I know several answers. I don't know which answer to write. Several answers? Is there only one answer? No, sir, I know several answers. You tell me one by one? Very simple, sir. Go to the top of the building and drop the barometer, start a stop clock. And find out how much time the barometer is taken to drop down to the ground. You know, the initial velocity is 0, the height of the building is h, and the acceleration is g, time is t. So h equals 0 plus half gt square. You know the value of g, you know the value of t, you know h. I have used a barometer. Sir, I know some more answers also. Another answer is, you take the barometer, go to the top of the building, use it as a simple pendulum and find out the value of g, acceleration due to gravity. Come to the bottom of the building and the same pendulum find out the value of g. You know how the g varies with height. From that you can find out the value of the height of the building. Sir, one more answer also I know. You find out the length of the shadow cast by the barometer on the top and at the bottom, and by principle of similar triangles we can find out what is the height of the building. Then the teacher is getting angry. Sir, I used a barometer, sir. Then he said, sir, I know one of the easiest methods of finding out the height using a barometer. Go to the bottom of the building, there is a security guard sitting there. You tell him, hey man, if you can somehow tell me the height of the building, I will give you a good barometer. Then he says, I am trying to show how badly questions are being framed. It is not easy to ask questions. It is much easier to write answers. To be able to ask the right question is the most difficult thing in life. In Chandogya Upanishad, Indra goes to Prajapati, the great teacher. Sir, I want to ask a question. He says, stop. Go and meditate. Do tapasya for 1000 years. 1000 years of brahmacharya and tapasya, and then come back to become eligible to ask a question. The idea is, when the teacher gives you the answer, you will not be able to grasp it unless you have practiced and purified your mind and you are capable of receiving the depth of that answer. So he came, meditated for 1000 years and came back. Sir, one more question, another 1000 years, go. Of course, you have to cut out 2 zeros. In those days, number of zeros used to be in. So why I am saying this is because to be able to ask the right question is not easy. So just like a chemical salt is subjected to analysis, you can subject any kind of emotion or feeling or any thought, sentiment to analysis to find out the truth behind this. You get the knowledge through analysis. Eddington gives the example of humor. Somebody tells you a joke. You are not laughing? Let me find out whether it is a joke. What is a joke? 1, 2, 3. The characteristics of a joke are laid down. You analyze the joke as you would analyze a chemical salt in a laboratory. After having analyzed the joke, having really found out that it is really truly a joke, what will be the next reaction? To laugh. But the analysis of a joke has killed the joke totally. Eddington beautifully writes, the analysis of a joke retains all the characteristics of the joke except its laughableness. The reaction to a joke comes spontaneously, intimately, and not analytically, symbolically. There are people who have such extraordinary intuitions about God, about nature, about something which is mysterious, something beyond the senses. To such people, a person without such faculty is to be regarded as a person without any sense of humor. If everything is analyzed in the universe will simply become a non-entity. So, the analytical knowledge which gives you knowledge about the external world. But when it comes to the internal world, the world of feelings, world of sentiments, don't even bother about God or religion. The simple world of feelings and sentiments. You read a beautiful poetry by Rabindranath Tagore, by Shakespeare, by Milton, by Jayashankar Prasad, by Mahadevi Verma, you feel so delighted. Ah, what a beautiful piece of poetry. You become so elated and excited. So stop, why should you be elated? Let me analyze. If everything is analyzed, then the whole world will simply become a dry, insipid, absolutely unlivable. That's why Rabindranath made a beautiful statement, just one liner. A mind which is all logic is like a sword without any blade. A sword which is all blade without any handle. It makes the hand bleed which uses it. Suppose you have a very sharp blade, you need a handle to hold it. If your mind is so analytical and absolutely devoid of any feeling, emotion, sentiment, it is just like a blade, a sword which is all blade without a handle. A mind which is all logic sticks at every point and cannot move at all. In life is a continuous movement and relationship. You keep moving in sentiment, moving in feeling, moving in thought. But a person who is analytical, too analytical, and ignores the inner rich world of emotions and feelings and sentiments, is a person who will be always stuck. He will be the most difficult man to deal with. He will pick up quarrel with everybody, and he can't adjust himself to anything because always he is analytical. Always he wants logic. Logic cannot solve your problems always. This is not the statement of religion, but a statement of science. So computer scientists here will know the famous debate between artificial intelligence about the necessity, about the truth of it. Some of you at least must have read the famous book by Roger Penrose, The Emperor's New Mind, the first book which he wrote. It's a parody of Emperor's New Clothes. You know the story of Emperor's New Clothes. There's a king who was very foolish. Of course, otherwise he would not be a king. And all the ministers always used to cheat him by telling him so many interesting things. One day the minister came and said, "Sir, you look so beautiful. I'll give you make a special kind of cloth for you. And you look so pretty in that cloth." They called a tailor, they disrobed him totally, and then he made all kinds of gestures. "Sir, you look so funny, so wonderful, so glamorous, come on, walk in the streets." Everybody was saying out of fear, "Oh king, you are so wonderful." There's a small boy who got up and said, "Hey, Ullanga Raja." The story of Ullanga Raja. It's well known in all the languages in India. He is making a parody of this story, Emperor's New Clothes. That is the story. Roger Penrose titles his book Emperor's New Mind. We talk about the strong AI, the strong artificial intelligence. The AI people say that the computer can exactly take over the function of the human brain. The question is whether the human brain thinks algorithmically or not. You know what's an algorithm? Exactly step by step sequentially whether the human mind thinks. Or is there something more to algorithm, more to the human mind beyond algorithmic thinking? The strong AI people argue the human mind is exactly programmed algorithmically. It can take over all the functions of the human mind. Penrose is arguing against it. There is a big debate, in the open debate in the American television, and Penrose almost lost that debate. So he wrote another book, The Shadows of the Mind, huge book. The third book which has come out, Path to Reality. It's a huge book, about 1,500 pages. See how people have spent so much of time. He is one of the most gifted living mathematicians and physicists, Roger Penrose. So there he begins with an interesting prologue, introduction. There is a story. In the most advanced country called America, a super computer is going to be inaugurated. That computer is so fantastic. It can answer any question in not even microseconds. Instantly it can answer. It's almost an omniscience. It's going to be inaugurated, and the inventor has come with great pride. The president himself is there, and so many big technocrats and scientists are present. And the scientist says, ladies and gentlemen, here we have a supremely powerful computer which can answer any question instantly. It is almost an omniscience incarnate. I request any one of you from the audience to put the first question to inaugurate it. Nobody dared open their mouths. Who will expose the stupidity before this omniscience? A small boy gets up. Sir, I will put the first question, sir. Everybody said he is a child. Of course, he does not know what he is into. The boy said, come on, kid, ask the question. He said, my question to the computer is, how does it feel to be a computer? Computer went on doing all kinds of calculations. 10 minutes gone, 15 minutes gone, half hour gone, 1 hour gone. Finally, he said, I don't know. It's a big peal of laughter everywhere. This is the story with which he begins and says, the computer may solve the most complicated calculation in a trice, but the computer does not know that it is doing all this. It has no self-consciousness by which it can know and feel that it is doing all this. That is the difference between a conscious person, a human being who knows what he is doing, and an unconscious entity which has been programmed by human intelligence to be able to do all this. You know the famous tussle, the game between Kasparov and Deep Blue. When we were children, it was a great excitement. Kasparov lost. Such an extraordinary intelligence it had. But who has programmed it? People like Kasparov. Human intelligence has programmed that computer to be able to do this. So who is superior? Swami Vivekananda asked this question. He gives the image. A huge locomotive is going with deafening speed. In India, the speed is much less. 140 kilometers is the maximum we saw in the papers some days ago. We have 350 kilometers, 400 kilometers. The bullet trains in Japan and all that. This is going with tremendous speed. Let us come to India only, 140 kilometers, let us stick to that. Even that is good enough. There is a small worm on the railway track which is trying to save itself somehow by moving away from the track. Think of this, imagine this. A huge locomotive moving with deafening speed, and a small, tiny, little insignificant worm trying to move away from the path of the railway track. Vivekananda raises the question, which is superior? The small worm or the huge locomotive? The answers by saying, the locomotive after all is a machine, is a dead piece of matter which does not know that it is moving in such a speed. And its entire movement has been regulated by human intelligence. And this little small fellow, this worm, which is struggling to move away from that railway track, has its own will, its own survival instinct, consciousness, which makes it infinitely superior to this unconscious dead piece of matter, however big or however giant it may be. Julian Huxley, the famous biologist, wrote once, you may exactly predict the orbit of the moon and the sun and the planets and the various stars. You may say now where the sun will be after 200 years. Exactly you may say this. But you can't predict the orbit of a common housefly or a mosquito. Mosquito is sitting here, and then where the mosquito will go after that, no scientist will be able to predict. The place where I come from, Belur Math in district of Howrah in Bengal. That is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission, and that's where Swami Vivekananda lived and passed away. Full of mosquitoes. And those mosquitoes are extremely intelligent. Really, you should be amazed at the intelligence of a mosquito. See, my request to all of you, engineers and scientists, try to look at nature and learn from it. We have totally forgotten the art of enjoying nature. Just move around and see. These plants, animals, these insects. Have you seen a small ant moving in a big row? How they communicate with each other. I always, when I was a child, used to disturb them by putting a small drop of water. Immediately they encounter this drop of water, it will turn around and communicate. This fellow will turn around. Within microsecond, all of them have communicated, they will march back. And the hole in which the ants live, how much of rice and grains they store for the rainy season. With their little mouth, they keep on doing it. How much of intelligence God has given it, and how much of love nature has put in the small worm or an insect or an animal to be able to take care of its little ones and offsprings. I will tell you a very little story which actually I experienced. You know, we use mosquito curtains. I don't know whether you use them here because of fear of mosquito bite. So I tell God, wherever you send me, hell or heaven, I can sleep on the floor, but give me a mosquito curtain. It will be different. In hell, I think the mosquitoes will be more. Now, the disadvantage of a mosquito net, it can prevent mosquitoes from entering, but once one enters, it will not go out. So that one fellow entered, went on sucking blood. Then I thought, all right, I told God, oh God, you have given me so much of blood. It wants only a very small amount. You take it. I told the mosquito, you suck a little blood, but don't give me malaria. That is the contract. So believe me, this fellow ate its full, its stomach, I could see the stomach was absolutely bulging, it's full of blood. I was just watching what this fellow is going to do now. I was amazed. It simply slowly flew, it could not even fly properly, to the end of that mosquito net. There is another mosquito, a small fellow, perhaps its daughter or son or who knows. No, mosquito also has its own world. We do not know that world. I always feel, whenever the big medical conference in the world, to find out what kind of viruses we should now combat, immediately there is a follow-up conference in the virus world. Virus association will have a president and a vice president and secretary and they will say, friends, there is a medical conference a week ago and then human beings have invented a new kind of vaccine. Now we should now combat them. Come on, throw up a new virus. Immediately you will see some new virus. Recently in Calcutta, there is a new kind of virus called Calcutta fever. No doctor could detect what is that virus and how it comes about. And then the doctors usually say, oh, I know what it is. It's a fever of unknown origin. You don't require a medical degree to say that. There are 100,000 unknown factors in the universe which science does not know. Science cannot know. After some time, mysteriously it has vanished. Then I found out the secret. The virus conference, they have decided, we will throw a virus and completely throw everything in chaos and then walk away. Now this fellow, this mosquito, just put its mouth near in the net, in the small hole. The other small fellow sitting on the other side put its mouth and then sucked the whole blood like a syringe. If I had a powerful camera, I would have got the greatest prize for photography. It took away the whole blood and I could see it completely is emptied. Then that fellow smiled and walked away because he is going to give it to the other children. Then this first mosquito came and sat on me and started sucking. You cannot imagine, I felt so elevated. Mentally I was so thrilled and amazed. I said, oh God. So Julian Huxley says, you can't predict the habit of a common housefly or a mosquito because consciousness introduces something in a person, in an object, which makes everything unpredictable. The uncertainty and the unpredictability and the probability, all of them come about when you have consciousness involved. Because there is a free will, something happens, you do not know how. We always talk about order in the universe. Science wants to find out the order. Now, science also now says, the famous chaos theory, you engineers and scientists will know, now they say the chaos theory is one of the biggest puzzles of the universe. Everything is in a state of chaos, and from chaos comes order. Some of you must have read the famous book by Prigogine, the Nobel laureate in physics, Order Out of Chaos. He says there is a definite law in the universe which is so chaotic. If you open, the simplest example is, if you open a tap, the fall of water, for which no engineer in any of these IITs can write any equation. Streamline motion, you know, some kind of change from streamline you can write. Absolutely turbulent motion, you don't know what it is. Turbulence is something which people are studying and studying, they can't solve it. You can't solve the problem of water which is opened, how suddenly it goes here and there. And about you can't write an equation for a waterfall. How it happens, how it falls. So we have certain very stringent conditions, we approximate, we eliminate so many things, and then find out under these conditions this equation holds good. And afterwards you add one epsilon, add one alpha, and then produce a few more papers, of course. But nature is so fantastically vast and mysterious that you can't unravel the mystery of nature. Maxwell, the famous electromagnetic man, he said, in trying to solve the mystery of nature, in the ultimate analysis we discover that we ourselves, forming part of nature, form the part of the mystery we are trying to solve. So we are trying to solve nature's mystery as an outsider, looking at it as an object. But we as a subject cannot solve the mystery completely because we form part of nature. So it's an intimate knowledge, non-symbolic, non-analytical knowledge, which comes to you most spontaneously and most intimately, which cannot be analyzed and which cannot be known. So there is another kind of knowledge which comes to you, most natural in everyday life, which is in the region of not only religion, but fine arts, humanities, music. These are certain things which spontaneously evoke in you certain feelings and sentiments and emotion which can't be analytically understood. So by saying that anything which is not analytically incomprehensible is unscientific, is actually being really unscientific. You should realize there are two complete jurisdictions, two regions. In one region, analytical reasoning faculty works. As I was mentioned in Roger Penrose's book, he mentions the famous theorem, the Gödel's theorem, most of you must have, it was one of the most fantastic discoveries of the last century. He says there are certain true statements which are neither provable nor disprovable within the framework of formalistic mathematical logic. Is it true? Can you prove it? I can't prove it, but you disprove it, let me see. God doesn't exist. Now I say God exists. You prove that God exists, I say you prove God does not exist. When you can't prove it, I also can't prove it, let us be friends. So there are certain things for which you can't really prove anything. Can you prove that you exist? Simple statement. I say I exist. What is the proof that you exist? The proof I exist is that I exist. That is the proof. So the proof of existence is existence itself. So Gödel says, mathematical logic simply baffles you. There is a point of, there are certain paradoxes in nature. He talks about the Russell's paradox. You know the Russell's paradox? In a very simple language it is put to Roger Penrose. Russell, when he was a child in the school, was such an extraordinary genius of a person. He got up and said, "Sir, in a village there is a barber who shaves everybody who does not shave himself." Who shaves the barber? Barber cannot shave himself because he shaves everybody when he does not shave himself. So there are certain paradoxes. Another example is given. There is a country called Crete. So one Cretan, a person belonging to Crete, went about telling everybody, all Cretans are liars. Am I telling a lie or the truth when I am making this statement? If you say all Cretans are liars is a lie, then he is speaking the truth. If you say all Cretans are liars is truth, then he is telling a lie. So such paradoxes exist. Formalistic logic actually collapses. You find that formalistic logical systems very carefully are constructed by the human brain. There are certain places which simply collapses, it does not know what it is. So Roger Penrose uses this argument to say, there are certain areas which can't be either proved or disproved, because your formalistic system of logic itself is incomplete or insufficient to be able to find out the proof of this statement. Then is your knowledge incomplete? Yes. How do you make it complete? This incompleteness of knowledge is because you can't explain certain things. If you want to make it complete by certain inputs, then that has to be internally inconsistent. So the famous theory of consistency versus completeness of Gödel is a big debate which is still unsolved. They say Gödel's theorem is one of the most fantastic discoveries, outstanding revolutionary discoveries, at par with even the theory of relativity and quantum physics. So the proof is human knowledge itself is limited. Human knowledge may be highly elevated than other kinds of knowledge. That itself is limited. Arthur Eddington says beautifully in his book, every piece of knowledge is gained at the expense of a piece of ignorance. You have a piece of knowledge, you have another piece of ignorance, which you can't solve. Now we say almost we have found out the Higgs theorem, Higgs boson, but is it the Higgs boson? Wait, we are trying to find out. Nobody is sure of anything. If they find that out, then they say, no, we have solved the mystery. We have not solved anything. Then some other new factors will come by which you will know now you don't know what it is. But the fascinating search of science is that you keep on investigating open-endedly. A true scientist is a person who never makes any assertions, does not say this is the truth. He says this is the model of the truth which I have built up, this is the theory which I have built up. So far as our knowledge goes at the present moment, this is the theory which is intact. If that theory is knocked down tomorrow, the scientist will not cry, he will be happy. As it is said, the corridor of science is littered with the skeletons of discarded theories. This huge corridor of science, keep walking along, there is one skeleton, what is it? Oh, this is Newton's theory, oh, is it? You keep walking along, there is some other theory. So many theories come, knock it down, and other theories. Are they wrong? No. They are right as far as they go, but not exactly right because new facts have come in. So that's how human knowledge grows. A true scientist is a person who never makes any specific assertions as to he has discovered the truth. Newton's famous statement everybody knows. I seem to myself like a child playing in the seashore, picking up a pebble here and there, while the vast ocean of undiscovered truth lies there before me. That is the vision of a true scientist. And scientist agrees that this is what I know, and there are certain areas which I do not know what it is like. Srinivasa Ramanujan, the great mathematical genius, he used to write down so many theorems. Suddenly he used to get up from sleep and simply jot down so many theorems. In the morning he used to show his mentor, Professor Hardy. Hardy used to be amazed. Ramanujan, how could you come out with these theorems? What is the proof? Ramanujan said, sir, the proof, I know, I see that they are right. That's called vision. In India we call darshana. That's when you see. What is the proof of God? See, Ramakrishna said, I see God as I am seeing you. What proof do you need? I am seeing you, I see God in exactly the same way, much more intenser way. The proof of something you see it. Then he asked Ramanujan, how could you come out with these theorems? Then innocently he said, sir, I have a Kuladevata, my family deity, called the goddess of Namakkal in Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu. She was very devoted to that goddess. She comes in my dreams and says, wake up, write down these theorems. So I write them down and then show it to you in the morning. So Hardy smiled and said, this boy is a mathematical genius, but hopelessly religious. You do not know, certain things happen from somewhere beyond the mind. Many of the scientific discoveries have been made from beyond the mind. Have you heard of Kekule's discovery of the benzene ring? The structure of the benzene. Kekule was a organic chemist. You know, the benzene ring has a cyclic structure. The aliphatic compounds, the aromatic, you must have read all that. So he was always conditioned with the linear chain, the methane, the ethane and all that. So he did not know how this could be fitted in the benzene ring CHH6, C6H6, 6 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. He was worried and worried. The story is in his life, it is written. So he was so much deeply engrossed, and suddenly he felt it kind of a dream or a trance or a what we call in Indian languages tandra. It's not exactly sleep, he simply went into a kind of dream like state, and suddenly saw a dragon made of carbon atoms, and the dragon opened its mouth and was biting its tail. I have got it. The benzene has a cyclic structure. Got up in the morning and solved the problem. The helical structure, double helical structure of DNA, that also came in a kind of, you can't call it vision, you can't call it intuition. There's something happens to you beyond the mind, it informs you, and the logical mind actually formulates the whole thing. All the great revolutionary discoveries of nature by scientists, not religious people, have come from something somewhere beyond the mind. And therefore, Albert Einstein said, with that I will finish because it's already late. Einstein said, my religion consists of a humble adoration of an illimitable intelligence which our dull faculties can comprehend only in the most primitive form. The most sublime and the most beautiful emotion one can feel is a sensation of the mystical and the religious. It is truly the sour of all science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer stand and wonder in rapt awe, is as good as dead. To know what is impenetrable really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty which our dull human faculty can comprehend only in the most primitive form. This feeling, this emotion is the center of all scientific discovery. And he said, this cosmic, religious and mystical consciousness is truly the mainspring of all scientific research. It's the human mind which discovers, whether it is science or religion or spirituality, it's only the human mind. And the human mind is informed by something which is beyond the mind, and the human mind catches it and formulates it. That which is beyond the mind, we do not know what it is. How does it happen? The human mind is the only mind. The human intelligence is the only intelligence which is capable of self-transcendence. It can transcend itself. Suddenly you feel that you have gone beyond something, you are informed by it. How many peculiar things happen to us every day? The most mysterious thing which can happen is a dream. There we create our own world out of ourselves, nothing external. Consciousness in us has the capacity to divide itself in the subject and the object, and the subject impinging on the object and trying to know the object. That's what happens to you in dream. But you say, I dreamt. I am very fond of football, I play it every day. A very crucial match tomorrow, I broke my leg. I'm crying, oh, I can't play the match tomorrow. So I am now in the hospital with a sling. Suddenly, because I am so much enamored of football, suddenly I shout in the dead of night, goal! what has happened to you? I just now scored a goal. Did you score a goal? You are with your fractured leg. In dream, I scored a goal. In waking state, I have a fractured leg. Suddenly, doctor gives me a sedative and puts me to sleep. Nothing happens to me at that time. Who is that I? But I have a feeling I scored a goal. You do not say, in dream there was an I which scored a goal. There is a continuity of I in the waking and the dream and the deep sleep. So, which is the true I? So, you have to per se conclude there is one supreme I of which all these three I's can be considered modes of manifestation in the three states, like the phases of matter, water, ice, the phase change. So, the phase change of the I occurs from the dream. That's like having a gear, first gear, second gear, third gear. You are in the first gear and going on, the second gear go to dream, third gear go to sleep, come back. So, this is happening constantly, but you do not know the mystery of consciousness. Happening to you every day. But everyday occurrence which you go through, we do not know what it is. So, we are living in a world of extraordinary mysteries and ununderstandables. So, let us be humble and know nature, God, whatever. There are 100,000 things which we do not know and we are not given to know, and the challenge and the beauty and the joy of living is that human mind will not stop investigating and trying to know. In this constant investigation and trying to know, nature once again plays its trick, nature again hides, man wants to probe, and nature throws newer and newer things. So, as Eddington said, every piece of knowledge is gained at the expense of a piece of ignorance. It is impossible to empty the well of truth with a leaky bucket. The well of truth is a huge knowledge resource which you have, and the leaky bucket is your intelligence. When you have a leaky bucket and pull water out, some water will come out, some water will also go. So, this is the game which you are continuously playing. In this continuous search after the truth, the human mind exhausts itself, and the mind becomes completely exhausted in the pursuit of truth, and the mind comes to a point in which it transcends itself through self-collapse. The mind simply collapses, like the collapse of the wave function in quantum theory. It simply collapses. When the mind collapses, you are catapulted to a world of non-mind, beyond the mind, and you intuit everything from a totally different perspective, and everything falls in place. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, Shantam. And you come back once again with that knowledge and impart that knowledge to others. That is what the spiritual people did. Thank you.